So you've decided I have no idea what I'm talking about in my last video, and you've told yourself that you want to get a car. Should you buy new or should you buy used? Should you buy a Mercedes or should you buy a Toyota? Should you zig or should you zag? Well, let's find out.
The first and probably most important thing you should consider is your budget. How much do you have available to spend? How much are you willing to spend? Those are two very different questions. You know, do you have something or somebody to fall back on just in case you buy a new car and you can't make the payment? These are all questions that you have to answer for yourself. You know, I can't answer them for you. You know, I'm thinking we should go about this video by making a versus list. So let's put that on the screen right now. Doesn't matter what side. So the first points are gonna go to the used car in terms of price. Used cars are cheaper like 90% of the time, unless you're buying like a used Ferrari, in which case you probably shouldn't be watching this video. In my personal opinion, it's always better to go with a used car because they're cheaper and they're accomplishing the same thing as a new car, getting you from A to B, but just costing you less. The next point is regarding insurance. Most of the time, the used car is going to be cheaper to insure, but you do have to be aware of some factors. These aren't listed in any particular order, but you do have to be aware of these factors. So we all know how reliable the Honda Civic and the Honda Accord are, right? But there's one downside to them. They were the most stolen cars in 2018, so there were a lot of insurance claims on them. The next thing has to do with the trim level of your car, or the level of trim, I should say. It'll be cheaper to insure the baseline model of a car versus the fully loaded one, because if the fully loaded one gets into an accident, it can be very costly to replace like a sunroof or a premium sound system, you know, compared to a regular one. So for the sake of the argument, let's say you bought a car from the year 2010 without all the bells and whistles and stuff like that. So point goes to used. The next thing I want to talk about is monthly payments. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a fan of Dave Ramsey and his show and what he does. And he hates monthly payments. He thinks that you should pay for everything in cash, minus your house, and never have a monthly car payment unless you're very well off and they're a very small percentage of your net worth. I'm pretty sure in that case, you would just be paying cash for it anyway. And to be honest, I agree. Like I always say, a car is designed to get you from A to B. So why would I spend $300 to $600 a month on top of gas, insurance, and other maintenance costs just to travel from one place to another? Buy a used car outright with cash so you own it. You don't owe anybody for it. You don't owe debts to anybody or anything like that. Point goes to, you guessed it, used. So let's talk about depreciation. Depreciation is something that happens to every car as long as time keeps continuing on, I guess. Of all the articles I've read on depreciation, most cars lose something like 40 to 60% of their value within the first 5 years of it being on the road. So if you buy a car worth $30,000 brand new this year, then by 2026, the car will be worth something like 12 to 18 grand if my math is right. One trick I've learned is to buy a car that's a few years old. The original owner already took the hit for the depreciation, and most of the time, the car is still fine both physically and mechanically, so you're getting a relatively new car for a fraction of the price. Point to used. Now let's talk about condition. Used cars are obviously used, so you know, if you wanted a car in better condition, you'd probably have to look at something new. You know, 99% of the time, the new car will be in better condition, both physically and mechanically. So if you're buying your first car and you don't want to have to deal with any maintenance for the first while, the new is definitely the way to go. The bad thing about used cars is that they might need some work done to them. So if you're not ready to take on that job, I would say to buy new. So in this instance, I'd say point goes for ease of use and peace of mind to new. Staying on the topic of condition, let's talk about reliability. This one is up in the air because you could buy a new car and it could break down a lot, but then again, you could also buy a used car that's in terrible condition and it could end up costing more in the long run for repairs. I think this ultimately depends on the car, but I'm gonna give this point to new just because, like I said, they're coming fresh from the factory and most likely there isn't anything wrong with them. Even if there was, it would probably be the manufacturer's responsibility to fix. Next thing is knowing what you're buying. The fact of the matter is that when you're buying a new car, like, you know what you're getting, right? You know it's brand new, it's fresh from the factory, fresh off the assembly line, and you know that for the most part, it's mechanically sound. The one bad thing about buying a used car from, say, Facebook Marketplace is, the person could tell you that the car is perfectly good, it runs well, stuff like that. But unless you're a mechanic or you bring somebody along that is a mechanic, you probably won't be able to tell if that person is telling the truth. The car can probably start and run, but maybe it overheats, maybe the AC doesn't work, or, something like that. I'm not saying that everybody selling a car is, like that, but you have to be cautious sometimes. As the saying goes, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. Point to new. So this could have probably been mentioned in the topic of condition and reliability, but let's talk about warranty. This should be pretty simple. Most new cars that you buy come with some type of manufacturer's warranty, and most used cars won't. So if you want warranty for whatever reason, you should consider buying new. Point to new. Simple. So as you can see, we're in a little bit of a stalemate here. So I'm leaving the decision up to you. Just remember that whatever your budget is, remember what you need, not what you want. And above all, make an educated purchasing decision. I've left multiple links in the description down below talking about new versus used, depreciation, and some of the cheapest cars to insure. But remember, cheaper doesn't always mean better. And as always, thanks for watching.
So you've decided I have no idea what I'm talking about in my last video, and you... Fuck. Do it again.